Garrison. I've written a horror novel, The End of Jack Cruz. I would like to discuss it with you today. My inspiration for the novel was relatively simple. It was basically a formulation of observance of modern day society in various respects. For instance, the book's villain, Jack Cruz, the death-obsessed sadist, was sort of a manifestation of how society seems to be fixated with death, fixated with the pleasure derived from death, or other people's death at least. So that's how Jack Cruz himself came about. As far as the book's drug angle, with an opiate substance combating this deadly virus, that was also a manifestation of observance, where seems that many people these days take that attitude toward drugs of various types, to where they must achieve a certain high and maintain it, or all is lost. And that high will be pursued as if death is the alternative. And that's the gist of my inspiration when writing the book, was the different elements were just manifestations of different things I've observed in modern day American society. As far as how I wrote the book, it was basically a study in how not to write a book. The book started out, it was one of the first things I wrote some years ago. It started out as a novella of, I guess, around 20,000 words, somewhat. And really the only way it resembles the final published novel is in its scenario of this virus that's only combated by hard drugs. And there's a villain named Jack Cruz, and the protagonist named the Colonel. Those are about the only similarities. But anyway, the book started out as a novella, and I guess a couple years after I wrote it, I expanded it into a novel on a whim. But even then, it was that novel bears little resemblance to the published novel. As far as why it was the wrong way to write a book, the way that I came about developing this novel was by submitting it and having it rejected some months later, and then going back and doing a new draft on it, which is opposed to getting feedback on it and letting it sit and ferment a while before doing another draft on it and developing it more, and for instance, looking at it from different angles, and like, in order to improve it and get it into a coherent form. But basically, I wrote it through trial and error, through having it rejected several times, and that is, as I've learned now, not the optimal way to write a novel. In fact, it very nearly did not get picked up by Montag, except that after I had submitted it, I had another draft ready. It was much improved from the originally submitted draft, which was lost and misfiled, supposedly. So about a year and a half after I submitted the original draft of Jack Cruz to Montag, I was contacted by them with interest. Of course, by then, I having assumed that that lost draft was just rejected, I had subsequently edited it and done more drafts and submitted it several other places in my reckless way. So I had a better draft to give to them after they expressed interest, and even then it required some additional work from Marie Schwartzer at Montag, who proved to be a very valuable editor. So that is how not to write a book. In regards to why I write and how I came to be a writer, it was very unlikely, I suppose. I wouldn't fit the bill as your typical writer. I was not an English major. I have very little formal education in regards to English or any writerly fields. Basically, I write, and I began writing as a means of just simple self-expression. Originally, I had been a musician. I played the bass guitar and the drums, and that was my initial creative outlet, I suppose. And but eventually, after some years of exploring that avenue of self-expression, I found myself wanting for a fuller means of self-expression, and in addition to several other contributing factors that steered me toward writing fiction. Basically, fiction attracted me because it is, like I said, it seems to be a more complete mode of expression. I find myself able to convey thought, like the unified whole of a thought, and something approximating experience, and the vastness of experience and consciousness, perception. These are the things that I find much more easy to convey in fiction. And of course, fiction is not by any means the only way of conveying experience and consciousness, nor is it a complete means of conveying consciousness and experience, but it's something close enough, and that attracts me to it. I suppose the goal of my writing would be to convey some complete and inclusive experience, and, which may or may not be possible. But in any case, that's why I write. That's what attracts me to fiction. That's what keeps me writing, is the self-expression and the complete nature of being able to, the nature of fiction, where I'm able to convey something approximating experience and consciousness and thought. That concludes my self-conducted interview. Again, I'm A.A. Garrison. I've written a horror novel, The End of Jack Cruz. Post-apocalyptic horror. It's approximately 270 pages from Montag Press. It's available from Amazon and Barnes & Noble and other large book retailers. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.